Yeah, man. Nobody, I don't know. The world is like, we're in survival, and Joe Dispenza always talks about that, survival, right? Like he's always like, hey, we're in survival mode, and most people are in survival mode. And I've read his books, when I was a kid, like 18 years old. So 19 years old, I had a job at Pizza Hut. And I remember, dude, I mean, really, I was like popping pills still and just kind of like struggling all this stuff. But I was still like, something was really getting through, like his books. His first book, Dr. Joe Dispenza's first book called Evolve Your Brain. I was 18 years old, 19 years old maybe, got my first job at Pizza Hut, and I was reading that book. And I didn't know how to read that good even. I mean, I did, but I wasn't, didn't have enough attention span to read the whole thing. But I read like pages at a time, and it changed my entire life. I remember driving in my car, and I would pull up my music all the way where I had before. Maybe I didn't want to put the music loud, because I was afraid what the people next to me were thinking. I lost all that. I completely was free, and it changed my life completely. And I don't think I was ever been the same since. Even though I had my ups and downs and serious downs and stuff through all that, something still kept sticking there. Like, hey, there's a way to actually live without being so self-conscious and in that survival mode, worrying about what everybody else is thinking about you all the time. Because it's like, that becomes a hell. That becomes a prison that we gain into. And that book at 19 years old really helped me a lot. Like it really, it was just like talking about this stuff, stuck in survival mode. We are stuck in this survival mode. A deer gets chased by a lion or a puma or whatever, and its heart starts racing and it runs and it has the adrenaline rush. But then 20 minutes later, it's sitting in the grass relaxed because it goes away. That survival. Us as humans, that does not go away. It's the mind doesn't know the difference. The body doesn't know the difference between what your memory brings up again. So if you have a difficult circumstance, you bring it up in your mind, your body hits adrenaline, you think you're right there, you had a tragic event or an embarrassing event, your palms start sweating and everything, and then you're there again, and then you keep repeating that over and over in your mind, and then that's what Joe Dispenza talks about. That's what the cycle of sickness and illness and mental illness keep coming, repeating themselves over and over again. I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Definitely. And you know what the deer also does after being chased by the lion? It shakes.
Exactly.
The zebras, all the animals that are considered prey animals, grass-feeding prey animals, they shake, they let it out, and that's exactly what we've done yesterday with the sparring. That's why I believe this is such an important practice.
Totally.
Not only do you learn how to stretch, how to open your hips, which is a very important area, because from that does not only come your sexual energy, but also your balance.
Yeah.
Like your stance in life, literally.
Yeah.
Right? So that's very, very important. And I've seen how flexible you are still, and I know you've trained your legs like a wild man. So that's very good. But the point being, the deer shakes, and it shakes off the tension in the body that comes from being in the survival mode.
Yeah.
This is something that a lot of people are not doing. I just wanted to point that out as well.
That's right. Yeah, like my, fiance who's from the Andes of Peru and grew up in a very survival. Well, I mean, her parents pretty much grew up from the mountains, like really came from that. So like they're like first generation living in a big city, which is like 40,000 people, which is still pretty considered, kind of, I don't want to use, it's still like stuck in a certain kind of survival way. It's not everything's super advanced here. It's good now. I don't want to say bad things, but you get my point, right? It's, so that survival mentality I saw is serious. And you see that here in the town that we live in. It's really, everybody's like in the survival mode. You can't give in that, so everybody's like, I'm gonna get 50 cents from this guy, and like, they think they won the lottery, because they rip you off on the taxi for 25 cents, but that's survival, and we stuck, and not just people here, it's all over the world, in the Western countries too, in the United States, people, there's all these types all over the place, right? But yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder if the entire humanity we've been put in this place to where we're like in a constant state of survival, fear, lack, you know, and then we can't grow, and because we're stuck in this cycle. Oh, I gotta get the, you know, pay. So anyway, that's why I love Joe Dispenza's teachings and you know, in those books, because he really actually. A lot of people think it's New Age, it's a cult, and all this stuff. It's like no. This is real stuff, and they use science. They use real, like that's true self-empowerment. That's real self-empowerment. You know, the difference between that and religion is like, you know, religion teaches you to find something outside of yourself. And that's super blaspheming to a lot of people, like a lot of Christians and stuff. And I don't know why, because the Bible talks about that all the time throughout the Bible. For some reason, pastors don't really teach it, that you have the power within you. You know, when your eye is open, you can call that maybe your third eye. Jesus talks about that. Your whole body will be filled with light. Like, what is that? That sounds really New Age. That sounds like Hindu, if you ask me.
Yeah, very.
You know, so like, what is up with this just constantly, you know, putting humanity down? Is that the time we're in, blah, blah, blah? Well, I don't know, but I don't know, because I think that people, it's like work. It takes work to wake up and to, you know, and to get out of these habits and these survival mechanisms and these traumas and these family, you know, these things that our family put on us over generations and generations, and these cycles that we follow. There's a way to break out of it, and I think it actually can be way quicker and way easier than people think. You just gotta sit with yourself for a little bit, do some meditation, and don't be afraid to look within a little bit and look at the parts that maybe anxiety comes up, so then you run away from that, you flee from that, right? Yeah. But maybe just beyond that anxiety, that what seems so scary, you know, like the Wizard of Oz, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen the Wizard of Oz. It's a very famous movie, and, you know, but, you know, they get to this metropolis or whatever, and then there's they enter the door, and there's a big scary thing. There's this big scary, like, creature. It looks like a ghost, and it's gigantic. But it was really a man behind the curtain. It's just a man behind the curtain, and they pulled down the curtain. It was just some guy controlling the mechanism with all the scariness. So what if that's like that? You know, your anxiety and all that stuff. It really seems like this big scary thing, but underneath it, and you look underneath it, that's where your freedom is, potentially.
And this is where knowledge has real value. In my opinion, there's a piece of knowledge that I would like to offer, you know, our viewers right now. We get to a place of self-absorption when we feel out of balance, when we feel that we're not happy, when we feel that we're not getting what we need in life. Right. Our energy tends to be drawn or like absorbed within ourselves, in the same way as we were talking about animals before. When an animal is sick, they tend to isolate and they tend to rest. And they tend to not eat and not procreate and not all of these things, so that the energy is being contained within the organism and can be used for healing.
Interesting.
And for humans, it's the same thing. When we feel we are not getting what we need, and oftentimes it can just be having psychological reasons for ingesting bad nutrition that makes you feel bad, that makes you look at your body after certain years or decades, and you're like, I don't really like what I see. I don't really like how that feels to live in this body. And that tends to have the energy being absorbed within yourself, right? Also, when you feel mentally or emotionally you're not quite getting what you need, people then tend to go into those introspective, depressive states. And it has a beneficial reason. Like, the reason for that, the intention of that behavior is positive. The intention of that behavior is basically that you get to rest, you get to isolate yourself from other people, to really figure out what's happening, in the same way as the hurt or wounded animal isolates in order to rest and heal. We tend to do the same. But we don't quite... This is exactly what I said, where the piece of knowledge can be valuable. Once we see that humans have the tendency, when we are not doing well, to isolate from other people and absorb the energy within ourselves, once we see that, we can make the conscious choice to act contrary to that inclination that we have, meaning that we give more, right? And that's a piece of knowledge that's also valuable to understand, that we can only get so far by looking within and working on ourselves or obsessing about ourselves. At some point, the transformation really starts when we feel, okay, I don't have enough to give, but that was a manifestation or an effect of years and years and years of basically just trying to fill myself first without really giving to other people.